Hello everyone, and welcome to the first edition of Our New Old House. I'm Mark Vickerman.
And I'm Stacy Hunt Vickerman. We're a husband and wife, broker-owner team at Maple Lane Realty.
Now, recently Stacy and I had an epiphany. We realized that we have a ton of knowledge and information about fixing up and updating both old and new houses, and we thought it was time that we pass some of this knowledge and information along to you.
Last summer, we moved just 2 blocks from our home that we had lived in for 20 years to this, our new old home. She's a 1915 Craftsman fixer-upper, and our plan basically is to use our home to help you maintain, fix, and update your home.
Now, our first project we thought we would share is one that's quite common in these older homes, especially those built 1930 or earlier. And that is, ready for it? Dun dun dun! The broken sash cord. Let's head on into our new old house and take a look. Welcome inside, everybody. The offending window is one that's up in one of our bedrooms. And so I'll turn the camera around here, we'll take a look. So you can see we've got on the left-hand side the sash cord here is working just fine, but I am going to replace both. Over on the right side of the window, we have a missing sash cord. So you see that channel that is broken. There's the pulley up top, and so we need to fix that one. Now, I am going to remove both of these and replace both just because then they'll both have nice new ropes. The problem with our window is that when it opens, since it's only got weight on one side, it actually ends up jamming in there and won't open up right. If you have a window like this, it might be a situation where you actually have to prop it open. Those actually become really dangerous because you can slam fingers, children can get arms closed in those things and can actually break things, and so we don't want that to happen. So I thought I'd start by just talking about the different parts of an actual window. And this is considered a double hung window, even though, and this might be similar in your house as well, even though both sashes don't move, they should. Our upper sash is just painted shut. So the windows themselves, these pieces here are called sashes. Okay, so we've got an upper sash and a lower sash. These grids in here are called muntins, M-U-N-T-I-N-S, muntins. A lot of people refer to them as mullions, but that's actually something different. We learned that recently. We've got the casing that goes around the window here. Of course, the problem that we're going to be fixing here is the sash cord. So that's called a sash cord, and it's got a pulley up here. Down at the bottom, we have what's called the stool, which is this piece right here. We've got what's called an apron, which is underneath it. And then the pieces that we have to remove to get to the window are going to be, this one's called a stop. And then there's actually an inner one here. Let me open up the window. And this one here is called a parting stop. So you've got a stop on the outside and then a parting stop on the inside. And so those are some of the pieces that we're going to have to remove. Basically what we have to do is we have to take this lower sash out. That'll get us access to the sash cords. And then we've got these little doors. I'll show you, I've got one removed already down here. And that will give us access to where the weights are hanging that are attached to that sash cord that give it ballast basically to make sure the window opens and closes effectively. Now the tools we're going to need are pretty simple. We've got some new sash cord. And I would recommend, you can get this at any Ace Hardware in the neighborhood, or Home Depot, Lowe's, Menards, whatever you prefer. I would make sure that you get the right size because they do come in different thicknesses. We've got a flathead screwdriver. Phillips head might be needed as well. With these old windows in our old houses, they're always flatheads, which is a little annoying, but it is what it is. We've got a hammer. I've got a small pry bar. You may or may not need that. Utility knife is useful, especially for heavily painted windows. I've got a pliers and then a small putty knife, and again, those I may or may not need. All right, I'm going to pass the camera off and we're going to start to take apart this window. All right, so the first step in this repair is to remove this outer stop. And this one just has a couple flathead screws that I'm going to pull out and the whole thing will come out. Other windows, these will be nailed in, and so you may have to go along the edge with a utility knife to cut the paint and then use a pry bar, a small pry bar, to ease that out. And just be careful not to break anything. Ours is screws, so I'm going to get going taking that out. once all the screws are removed, this should come out. Now I've got a blind that's part of this as well. Sometimes those might be screwed into here. You might have to take those out. Ours are screwed into the top, so I can just slide it out like that. And then we'll get the other side. All right, now another difference you might find in some of these windows is how it's weather stripped. And so you will find some that will have a metal piece right here that's weather stripping, and it's got a, what would it be? It's got a channel that runs inside the window, and then a piece of that metal that slides into that. So ours doesn't have that, so I don't have to remove that. But if you do have that, there's usually a screw right at the top and one right at the bottom, and that's all that's going to hold that piece in. And then once you get both of those nails out that are holding those things, the whole window will slide out. Now in our case, like I said, it doesn't have that, so I'm just going to be able to pull the window right out. And at that point in time, because I've got one attached, the next thing is going to be to remove the sash cord. So you can see this whole thing is just loose. Once it's out, it's going to tilt, so just be careful not to drop the window. The other thing to note is on the other end of this is a very heavy weight. And so I'm going to pull this out. It's attached with one nail. And once I do, I'm going to ease that weight down so it doesn't drop. And I've got to be careful because this window then is going to be loose and drop. So I'll let you come in and I'll show that. So I'm just going to pull this out. And again, you can see that now the weight's dropped down, and now the window we can just set aside. Now, I'll show you that on the window, right in here, this is the channel that cord sits in. If you have that weather stripping I talked about, there will be a channel that runs all the way down that weather stripping fits into. Okay, so next step is going to be to access the weight that is inside the casing here. And so if you bring it in here, I've already got this one open, okay? And these can sometimes be a little challenging. I'll show you what this is. It's a little door. It's attached by a single screw here. And in our particular window, the tough part is that the parting stop actually sits right here on this edge. And so it actually holds this door in a little bit. So if I just go try to remove the door, I'll show you this on this side. It's a single screw. So there's a screw right down here on the bottom. And if I remove that, and you can see that our windows have some broken boards and some repair that needs to be done. That'll be another project later. But if I just remove that, because this is being held in by this parting stop, it won't come out easily. And you can actually see some of the damage that past owners have done down on the bottom of this, because they went in here and basically pried this thing to get it out. Now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to remove a little bit of this parting stop so that we can pull that out easily without doing any damage, and then I'll be able to nail it right back in. Now that process is pretty simple. I'm just going to score along the back side to cut the paint, and then with the pliers I should be able to pull this out enough that I can get that little trap door out. Okay, so you can see I've got a little bit of a gap in there now, and that should be enough. I'm going to pull a little bit out here too to be able to get that out. There we go. So I don't have to remove this. Now if I wanted to take and redo this window, I'm going to have to get this whole thing removed. And what I do then is I'd probably replace that parting stop altogether. Alright. Still going to want to stick a little bit. There we go.
Oh.
And it's out. Now if you come in close, you can see here's the weight that attaches to that sash cord. So we're going to be replacing this cord up to here. Alright, so I've gone ahead and actually replaced one of the sash cords. I'm going to go walk through the other one with you. But you can see on this one I've got the new cord in. The weight is attached down here. I've I've got it back in, and now I've got to get the other one replaced. Now, one thing I remembered when I was doing this is that one of the tougher parts is getting this light sash cord to feed down the channel inside. And in the past, I've had to take this pulley out and then feed it down with a little bigger opening. Now this one's got about 27 layers of paint on it and all sorts of other crap, so I wanted to avoid that. So what I did was I MacGyvered myself a piece of wire with a little hook on it, and then I went fishing. And the one thing you want to make sure you do is tie that knot on the end before you do that, because the first time I did it, I pulled it all the way through and I had to redo it. So I'll show you how to do that on this one, but that's one thing that you want to take notice. Sometimes it can be tough to fish that down the channel. So we need to figure out how long we want this to be. Now, an easy thing to do is if you do have one that's still intact like I do here, you can just measure off of that one. But in some cases, you've got two broken sash cords and you don't have that. So here's a good way just to estimate that. And that's just take the height of your window and go a little longer than that. And you should be about right. The thing you have to realize is when the lower sash is down, that weight is sitting up here somewhere. And so you don't want that cord to be so short that it pulls it up into this pulley and you can't fully close it. Likewise, you don't want it so long that when you raise the window up, that thing's banging down on the bottom and you don't get the full benefit of the weight. So you do want to make sure it's the right length. You're going to have about that much. When this is fully open, the cord's probably going to sit there, so the weight's going to be just off the bottom of the window casing and it should be good. So take the height of the window, go a little bit longer, and you should be good. And that's an easy way to measure your sash cord.
What's the measurement of your little bit longer?
A little bit. What's the measurement a little bit longer? I would say, 4 inches or so. The rule of thumb is you can always cut off excess. It's tough to take a shorter rope and make it longer. So err on the side of a little bit longer if you need to. All right, so I just tied a knot in that end, and then the next step is going to be to feed it through this pulley. And what you'll see is that we can get it in there, but to get that thing to fall down that channel just isn't going to happen because it doesn't have enough weight. So what I do is I just kind of shove it in. I'll move it in and out a little bit to see if we can't get it to loosen up, but more than likely it's bunching up right in here somewhere. So I'm just going to feed as much of it as I can in. And if you're lucky enough to see it start to pop out down here, then hey, call it a win, go get yourself a beer and celebrate. All right. So I've got quite a bit of rope in there. Now I'm going to take my fishing line and I'm just going to feed it up there and see if I can't grab that rope. And there it is. So again, just like fishing, although maybe not nearly as exciting. All right. Now these weights are going to be varying in size. I have seen situations where you go inside of it and that cord's been broken so long that the weight is actually missing. You can get these at Bauer Brothers Salvage. I would take the other side if you have it and make sure you're getting the right size, because you can get weights that are too heavy and you can get weights that are too light. Now all I'm going to do is tie this on here. I'm going to take a ballpark estimate here. Again, this rope is going to come down a little bit in that channel, so it's not going to go all the way up. It ends up being nailed right about there when the window's fully open. And I want this to be sitting off the ground. So I'm going to err on the side of caution and maybe make it come up a little bit, because again, I want that to hang off. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap this through a couple times. I'm going to tighten it down. And then if there's a loose end that I need to tuck up, I'll just do a half hitch up there and away we go. All right. So there's our weight. We'll get that inside the channel. Just let it sit there. And now we're ready to put our window back in. Now all that entails, and it is a little awkward to do, is we're going to take these small nails here. And if you don't have any small nails, sometimes you can salvage them from your old rope. So I'm going to guess, nope, it's not in there. It might still be in there. No, All right. The nails disappeared, so I've got to have new nails. I just happen to have some on hand, so we're all good. And all we're going to do is we're going to set the window up on the sill, and I'm going to bring this cord down. And this might be tough to see, but I'm just going to shove this knot right into that hole, and then we're going to want to somehow get a nail in there. I'm going to get the rope in the channel, and then I'm going to put the nail in the channel. So I'm going to put the nail right here. You just want something that's going to hold this rope in. All right, now I got that part way in so I can finish that off. With the screwdriver. All right, that's good enough. You just want something to hold that in there. All right, now we'll do the same on this side. It'll be a little bit easier because now I've got that one in. I just kind of hold it like this. Get our nail. Again, I'm just going right in the channel here instead of in that deep hole, and that's going to be just fine. Get it tacked in a little bit further. Now I will have you know that I normally wear glasses and I'm not. So I can't see a damn thing. There we go. All right, make sure it's in the channel. Pop it in.
Whoops.
And now our window should open nicely. And it does. And you can see we can open it all the way up. The weights are still hanging, so we got a good height. Obviously, if they aren't, you can make some adjustments if you need to. And close it all the way down. There we go. And we're good. So the rest of this is just putting it back together. So we've got everything back together. I've got our stops on, parting stop back in, our little trap doors are back in. Now I will mention this window needs a lot more work to make it work, but obviously it's just fine for our cat Moose. However, my wife has reminded me that a happy wife is a happy life, and my wife is happiest when I clean up. And that is how you replace a broken sash cord, dun dun dun, on a window. You can see it works beautifully. Now, on our next episode, we are going to continue on with winter maintenance. These windows, you can see if you look closely, have a lot of glazing issues, and so we need to replace glazing putty. We've got several windows that are broken, and so the goal on this project is to actually refurbish these windows. So we'll have discussion about do you replace these windows or do you get new? And if you don't replace them, how do you actually fix them up? So until next time, hope this was useful, and we will see you in the next episode.